sacrificial dolls and forbidden secrets, diabolical love unveiled. Scary story. Diabolico Amor lives in a town where traditions and customs still prevail. One of them involves walking around the park to approach a young girl and make her our girlfriend. That's how I met Anna, a girl with long black hair and a dark complexion. From the first moment I saw her, I was captivated. I immediately tried to talk to her, and it was reciprocated. After that encounter, we continued seeing each other and became sweethearts. I told her of my intention to formalize our relationship and get married. I thought she would like the idea very much, but she was indifferent. At that moment, I did not understand her lack of interest, but later, everything would be revealed to me. Shortly after we met, we got married and moved to a house near the river. She manifested strange behaviors, such as getting up at night and going for a 2-hour walk along the river. At first, I thought it was part of her family customs, but as I got to know her family, I realized that she was very different from her mother and siblings. When I became more confident with Anna's father, I tried to tell him about her strange way of behaving. I think that deep down her father knew what I was referring to, because he immediately changed the subject and gave me an excuse to leave. It was not possible for her father to dispel my doubts. At first, she had no objection to me finding out about her outings, but as I questioned her a lot, I think she started to give me something to put me to sleep. Every night, I intended to follow her, to find out exactly what she was doing when she went out in the early morning. No matter how hard I tried not to fall asleep, I couldn't. At a certain time, I would fall asleep, and it would last for several hours. It wasn't only the early morning departures. I knew that she kept something very precious in the closet, since she kept it under lock and key and in no way allowed me to see it. On one occasion, she left the key to her closet on the bed. Needless to say, she was very careful with that key, as she always kept it hanging around her neck. That day, she was distracted because her mother arrived unexpectedly. Anna only managed to get dressed and forgot to pick it up. I took advantage of her distraction and rummaged through her dresser drawers. I was surprised at what I found inside them. In one of the drawers, there were some small dolls, which were dressed and with certain restraints on different parts of their bodies. I found one that was blindfolded and had its arms tied in the back. I was not sure, but I believe that this doll was a representation of me. In addition, I found some small glass jars whose contents were strange. I opened one of them. The smell was very unpleasant and made me nauseous. From that moment on, I began to take care of every action of it. I tried to eat something different from what she prepared. In the evening, I stopped taking the drink she gave me after dinner. In this way, it was possible not to fall asleep and to be able to follow her when she left the house at night. She prepared to go out and covered her head with a black cloth. I kept a certain distance so that she would not notice my presence. We passed through the sometimes tall brush that almost completely covered me. He stopped in a flat circle, lit some candles that he was carrying in a bag. She arranged them in the shape of a triangle and began to chant in an unintelligible language. She began to contort herself and raised her arms, vehemently pleading to the sky. Diabolical love. Horror story. It didn't take long with this ritual, when suddenly the shadow of her reflected by the fire of the candles began to grow larger. It took the shape of a bull with horns. She began to speak to that shadow, of which only the red glow of her eyes could be seen. I was afraid of being discovered, so I cautiously left the place and returned to the house. For a long time, I sat on the bed. I could not conceive what I had seen. Now everything was clear to me. She had used me so that she could leave her parents' house and have the freedom to perform her rituals. Surely all the time she had kept me with substances that did not allow me to see clearly the reality of what she is. At that moment, I heard her open the door. I lay down. That night, I could no longer sleep. I understood that it was necessary to flee from that woman who had dealings with a being that did not belong to this world. For an instant, it crossed my mind to confront her and tell her that I already knew what she was, a witch. I don't know why I couldn't do it, but when I tried, the words did not come out of my mouth. I wanted to go to work, but I didn't feel well. A slight dizziness made me look for a place to sit down. At the same time, I felt very nauseous. When I was able to sit up, I rushed to the bathroom to vomit. What was that? A strange black substance came out of my body. Now I understood that she had a purpose with me, which was not exactly a pact of love. I went to bed because I felt so bad. That day, it was not possible for me to stand up. All day I lay in bed without tasting any food. When the sun began to set and the gloom made its presence known, she told me that it was necessary for me to take a bath, that I had to be clean for the place we were going to go together. I no longer had the will to refuse. I nodded affirmatively. She carried me carefully. I wanted to think it was tenderness. She had never treated me that way before. She helped me to soap myself and shave, because without fully understanding, I no longer had the strength to do it alone. Then he took a suit out of the closet and dressed me. I didn't understand why so much elegance was necessary if only she and I were at home. It was not like that. For a while, I sat in an armchair in the living room while it was time to leave. I did not understand why I let myself be carried away by her. I hardly thought about anything anymore. My mind was blank. In fact, I know there is something I should tell her, but I can't remember it anymore. Before leaving, she took one of the amber glass vials out of her purse and poured some of its contents into a glass of water. She gave it to me to drink. Then we left the house and walked along the riverbank until we reached the spot where I'd seen her the night before. I knew I should run away from that place, but I didn't have the strength to do it. Besides, my thoughts are getting weaker and weaker. I feel as if everything she tells me is somehow not so bad. When we arrived at a place stipulated by her, I sat down on a stone, no longer needing to be kept forcibly or tied up. She controls me and I can't do anything about it. Anna begins to do her death ritual and I can only watch. In a moment, this dark being appears whose eyes glow a reddish color. I manage to perceive a cavernous voice that speaks in a language I don't know. I manage to understand that it is a ritual to offer a sacrifice. Nothing matters to me anymore. I begin to fall into a downward spiral of apathy and meaninglessness. She is about to stab me in the chest with an elongated knife that shines with more intensity due to the glow emitted by the fire. At that moment, I hear a voice coming from the darkness. I turn to see who or what it is. It is her father coming with a shotgun in his hand. He tells his daughter to stay away. I guess that brief conversation I had with him did some good. Anna looks at him angrily and tells him that she doesn't want to hurt him. It's better if he leaves and lets her finish what she started before she met me. He comes closer and closer to me and unties me. She lets loose on him like a beast and starts scratching him, even biting him. There is a fight between father and daughter until a bullet is heard and she falls fulminated. The fury of the demon is so strong that it unleashes a wind so strong that it does not allow us to stand up. It seems that he's the one who controls it and whips us as if we were being whipped. Anna's father takes out a flask of water and begins to throw it all over the place, at the same time shouting prayers and demanding that she leave. I never thought we would be able to come out of that event unscathed. Afterwards, everything was calm again. The fire that Anna had lit was completely extinguished. She lay lifeless on the floor. Her beautiful face was transformed into a decrepit, hideous visage. Anna's father helped me up, and together we started back to the village. It was very difficult for me to walk. One of my legs was left with a limp, and I dragged it to be able to continue. I was no longer able to carry out my daily activities. I had little mobility, and my thoughts were few or non-existent. One of the drinks that Anna gave me to drink was William C.I., or better known as peyote. With this herb, I lost all motor skills and organized thinking. Thank you for joining us for this spine-tingling story. We hope you found it both thrilling and thought-provoking. If you enjoyed this video, please consider participating in our channel by subscribing, liking, and sharing it with your friends. Your support goes a long way in helping us create more engaging content for you. Goodbye, and may you always tread carefully in the world of the unknown.